There are fewer than 300 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Most players aren't destined for Canton.
It's in that room because this is the Hall of Fame gallery.
But that doesn't mean they can't visit. Or, in the case of Charlie Batch, bring along about 100 friends.
Tasha, raise your hand. That's who we're looking at. Here we go, 1, 2, 3.
Batch played 15 years in the NFL. He was the second-round pick of the Detroit Lions in 1998. He didn't wind up a Hall of Famer, but his career began right next to one.
And I remember going to hand it off, and I'm like, holy smokes, I'm just handing the ball off to Barry. I'm supposed to hand it off and boot away, and I totally didn't boot away. And the coach is yelling at me, boot away. I was just like, Coach, that was Barry. You know, I just handed the ball off to Barry Sanders. You gotta be kidding me.
The Lions were serious about Batch's future.
He had the size, he had the skill, he had the intelligence of an NFL quarterback. We just liked not only his physical abilities, but his intangibles as well.
Charlie Batch with it, still with it, and he dives. Touchdown, Lions! 4th down and inches. Charlie Batch. Nope, play action. Batch wide open. Touchdown, Lions!
He started 12 games in his rookie year. But Batch did not prove to be the franchise quarterback Detroit was looking for. He was frequently injured, and after 4 years, the Lions moved on. 4 years is about the length of a typical NFL career. But over the next decade, Batch would prove to be much more than the typical NFL player. He was raised in Homestead, Pennsylvania, an old steel town in the hills outside Pittsburgh.
This was home. We would come down here and we would play basketball for hours.
Charlie's the oldest of 3. I just thought that it was a nice place to raise your kids.
Everything changed in 1987 when U.S. Steel closed the Homestead Mill, leaving thousands of people out of work.
When we grew up, we were able to walk to school in 1st grade, 10 blocks away, no big deal. As we got older, things started to change with drugs and gangs and everything like that.
All these places used to be built, homes used to be built here. And when I was able to earn that scholarship to Eastern Michigan at 17, I said, I'm not coming back. And every time that I would come home from college to visit, you know, you look forward to coming home, but then you look forward to leaving again.
Homestead is filled with alleys. On February 17, 1996, when Charlie was a junior at Eastern Michigan University, his 17-year-old sister Danielle walked up the wrong one.
His sister was walking home from school with a longtime boyfriend. It was in an alley we probably walked through 1,000 times when we were little. And gunfire had happened, and the gentleman used her as a shield. And I use gentleman, obviously, as loosely as I possibly can, because the coward used her as a shield.
And I couldn't even tell him over the phone. He kept asking me, and then I finally told him what had happened. I told him he needed to come home.
And I remember turning on into this alley, and I remember just, there was yellow tape that was here. And I remember getting to this point coming up, and you knew something happened, but because they cleaned it up and they were trying to, it was just, okay, this can't be true. And you're trying to put together the pieces to say, how did you get here? How did that happen? And because you don't have any witnesses that are willing to talk, there was a mistrial. So the killer has never been found. And I don't think I've been in this alley ever since. This is the first time that I've been in this alley since I stood out here 17 years ago. And I always look at the sign, and it's a name that I'll never forget, East Laurel Way. You ride past it, ride up and down, and I've never cut through until now. Not only did it happen on East Laurel Way, but the funeral home was literally 1 block away from where it happened. And I remember sitting on that porch. People were talking about what happened and, you know, hey, we know who did it, let's go get them. You know, and at that moment, you know, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, you're like, if I did what I wanted to do, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
He wanted to take it out on somebody, and I told him, you can't do that. You're going back to school. Fight it a different way.
At that moment, this was it. When I said, if I'm ever in position to give back, I would. I remember sitting right there on those steps when I said it.
After being released by the Lions, Charlie Batch returned to Homestead in search of a new team.
When I met him in 2002, his dream was to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And Kevin Colbert, you know, who drafted me in Detroit, now the general manager, said, hey, Coach Cowher wants to meet with you.
He joined the Steelers, and at the same time, he began his life's work, a foundation called Best of the Batch.
I didn't know how long I was going to be here, but at the same time trying to create something that would make an impact. And the easiest way for me to do that in my community was basketball.
You know, he approached me many years ago and he said he wanted to do the Best of the Batch Foundation, and I had no idea what he was talking about. You know, it was a foundation, where it was going to go, what it was going to do. The one playground that we had, it was tilted.
Batch flattened the basketball courts, and a summer league called Project Chuck was born.
The whole goal was to tire them out in the evening hours so they can go home and go to sleep. I felt if I was able to do that, now we can slowly take back our community. And 1 year turned into 2, 2 turned into 5.
He started to see things grow. He started to see programs grow from maybe 100 kids to over 352 today. And the nice part is he wasn't just putting his name or his face on a foundation. He's at the courts every day. He's either refereeing or he's talking to a kid.
What's your name?
Ramir.
Ramir, nice to meet you. What you been eating on? Why you spill? What you got on your shirt? Man, how you gonna let me get you with that?
The program has graduated some blue chippers, among them the NBA's DeJuan Blair and Raiders quarterback Terrell Pryor. But it's not all fun and games.
How you doing, sir?
Good, and you?
Good. How many study halls you been to? I'm asking you, don't look at the coach.
2, 3.
What?
Every child has to attend 3 mandatory study halls. Project Chuck, you have to read in order to play. If you don't read, you don't play.
You need to get to the office, starting at 9 a.m. That means you have 3 days to make up 2. Understand?
DeJuan Blair, Terrell Pryor, all of them at one point sat in this room to do study hall.
On the court, things were taking off. On the field, it didn't go quite the way Batch planned. The Steelers drafted Ben Roethlisberger in the first round of the 2004 draft. Batch became Big Ben's backup.
We have anything on the max?
No, my only one thing you would have had was Hines coming across, but they played it pretty good on the strike.
He handled it extremely well, and if you know anything about Charlie and his character and his willingness to be a good teammate, you're not surprised.
Being a backup quarterback is the best job in football until you have to play. You know, because you don't get a lot of reps, and Charlie was able to take very few reps and produce.
He never became the Steelers' full-time starting quarterback, but over the years, Batch won 6 of his 9 starts, filling in for Roethlisberger.
And that is a catch by Heath Miller, reaches for the pylon.
He got it.
And they call it a touchdown.
In the final game of his career, he played the game of his life, leading the Steelers on a last-minute game-winning drive to defeat the arch-rival, eventual Super Bowl champion Ravens.
We got a barn burner in M&T. Snap is down. Sweezup's kick is on its way. That kick is up. That kick is good. And the Pittsburgh Steelers upset the Baltimore Ravens.
Charlie Batch comes to Baltimore and comes up big for the Steelers.
and look how much it means to the 15-year veteran.
I didn't know if this was it. I didn't know. And if this was the last start ever in my National Football League career, what better way to go out? All I can tell you is if Coach Tomlin, Kevin Colbert, or the Rooney family needs me, they know I'm 15 minutes up the road.
Every spring, Batch makes a pilgrimage to Canton. His companions, 100 children from Homestead. He shows each of them the case that holds all of the Super Bowl rings.
Which one would you pick out of these two?
That one.
So you're saying this?
Then, he shows them the 2 that he won as a Steeler.
I see it.
You want this? When I got that ring, I wanted every kid to put it on. This is what it's about.
It has your name on it.
You know, you can't sit up here and tell me you can't go out here and live your dream.
Super Bowl ring.
Can I see this?
I might have one of these one day.
It is often said that the backup quarterback is the most popular man in town. Charlie Batch took that line to heart.
Charlie means more to just Pittsburgh than he meant to the team. I tell him all the time, he wanted to run for mayor. He win this year.
Batch built his foundation headquarters just a couple football fields away from where his sister is buried. For a long time, proximity brought him no peace.
As I would drive to my mom's house, there's this fork in the road, and the fork in the road is you dead end right at the cemetery. And for years, I just couldn't make the left to go to my mom's house. I would always just make this right. You know, I don't have a problem with making this left anymore. Because I think right now I'm at peace, you know, with everything.
You never know how long someone needs to heal from the wound of a loss of a loved one. He's finally grieving, and grieving in a healthy way. You know, he accepted it years ago, but he accepts it more now. And he's able to talk about it so people can hear his message about it's okay to have a tragedy in life, but don't get hung up on your tragedy in life. You have to continue to grow and move forward. People always ask, why do you give back to a community that took the life of your sister? And he's just like, you don't understand. You're supposed to give back to the community that helped raise you. The community didn't take her. Street violence of people that had nothing to do took the life of her.
I brought you something. I miss you so much. It's hard to come up here to see you. I know you're smiling down. Hopefully you're proud of me. If tears can build a stairway and memories a lane, I'd walk right up to heaven and bring you home again.
A good backup quarterback is above all reliable. For over a decade, Charlie Batch has always been there, for his team and for his town. Living proof that you don't have to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame to be remembered.
Some people that don't know me will remember me from football. For me, it wasn't about what I've done on the field. It was about being able to make an impact in my community.